Hello everybody, welcome to another movie review where we talk about Dunkirk. And before we get started, I have a question to ask you.
What?
Okay. The question I have is, you especially are a fan of war movies.
I love war movies.
Now, what are some of your favorite war movies?
I probably Red October. A Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams,
Okay.
which was more of a comedy. Saving
Sure.
Private Ryan, Schindler's List,
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
I love those movies. I can't even list them all, but I love war movies. Not just World War II. I love Civil War movies too.
Okay.
But
You love all of that kind of stuff. So this movie is right up your alley as a war movie.
Yeah.
This is. For me, I love war movies. Again, Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line, Glory. I could go on and on. I mean, there's been many.
there's been many wars. There's been war movies on pretty much every war.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So, war movies are nothing new, and there's stuff that comes out every single year, and this is another one of those. So, I guess with this is, where do you want to start with Dunkirk?
I would say out of all the war movies I've seen, and I've probably seen over 50 war movies, especially with my dad who fought in the Vietnam War, I would actually have to say this ranked on the low end. It wasn't a top 10. I don't think it was a phenomenal war movie. I have to say it was confusing at times.
Yeah.
I know, and I was telling this to Seth earlier when we were talking to them all, I know you have to base a movie on a true story, and there's always a bit of exaggeration. But I think in this movie, they based too much on the true story and didn't have enough of a real story. Like, when you have in a movie, it's fine to base it on a true story. I mean, even when you have horror movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, yes, it's a true story, but a lot of it, is exaggerated because you need a story. There wasn't a strong enough story. As I said, you didn't need to really act. The actors didn't need to act in this movie. You didn't need to stretch the imagination. It was just talking. There was really, I don't think it was an amazing movie. I don't think the dialogue was there. And I was telling Seth, it reminded me of a soap opera because you had mini stories. You had a story here, a story here. There was no cohesiveness. There was no main story. There was no main actor. In a war movie, you had Tom Hanks, and you had those four. Those were the main actors. And other movies, Pearl Harbor, you had the two. You had Ben Affleck, and you had, I don't know who the other one was, but you had main actors. In this movie, don't say, because Harry Styles played a very small role. There's no main actor in this movie. There's no significant actor.
Well, there's some really solid actors in general, and you have Kenneth Branagh, you have Tom Hardy, you have Cillian Murphy, you have some really interesting actors in it, but they're never given any sort of real meat on the bone.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think this movie, because none of them did big enough roles, I don't think this movie, it might get nominated for Best Picture, don't ask me how, but the Academy loves movies like this.
Oh, yeah.
But absolutely. I don't think it will get nominated for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor because none of the actors had a significant role. There was one guy who was doing a little boat in the movie, and he was the main rescue boat.
Yeah.
And he had a big role, but even him, it was very choppy. That's what the movie was. It was very choppy.
Well, the problem is, and you are absolutely right about the plot, is that the plot, for me at least, is like, okay, fine. There's, usually in these war movies, you have a central thing. Like in Saving Private Ryan, okay, we have a mission, we're saving, this private, and we have to go, do whatever we have to do. Or in Glory, we have a few people that basically we have to end up, we have this group of black soldiers, and we have to, fight for the war and everything. So there's so many sort of storylines that you can do in a war movie, and this just doesn't have anything of it. There's no main through line where you can connect with somebody.
No.
And a lot of these characters, honestly, I'm going to tell you, I couldn't connect with any of these
Well,
characters.
that's the thing. When you see a movie, you want to have a connection. I couldn't connect to these characters. I thought the movie was choppy. And I just, there's, you can't even ruin this movie because it's based on a true story. I mean, we could tell you, basically, it was an escape, an evacuation mission. Dunkirk in history was the biggest upset, one of the biggest upsets in military history. The Germans beat it was a battle. They beat the shit out of England, beat the shit out of France.
Sure.
There's 300,000 soldiers on the beaches of Dunkirk. They had to save them. They saved 30,000. That's the point of the movie. They go in. But the movie, I think, was still concentrating. I mean, yes, it was concentrating on the evacuation, but you saw fighter planes and you saw boats and you kept a war movie. Yes, it's supposed to be action filled. I'm not saying that's why you go to a war movie.
Sure.
But when you have too much action and not enough plot, that's the problem. This movie, every other scene, a plane got shot down, or a boat got shot down, or a boat was sinking. There was a lot of boats sinking in this movie.
Yes, there was
a lot of boats sinking in this movie, and there was a lot of planes getting shot down. And yes, it had great action. If you love action, this is an action movie. It has action. Every 2 minutes you have action. But you don't have a good centralized plot.
Well, the action, for me, I got to admit, even I didn't really care much for the action, to be honest with you, because look, I mean, you look at something like, again, Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is gritty. That action is intense. I never got the intense.
Well, you didn't have intense. I don't even think you saw blood in this movie.
No, and that's another problem, which is that it never felt the realism of war to me.
It didn't, because there was no blood in this movie. I don't know if they did that to save money. I mean, there was special effects, but when people died, it was mostly drowning. It was drowning deaths. They died of drowning,
yes,
or a pilot got shot down, but they didn't show, even a kid, he got injured on a boat, and this is a part of the movie, and he died. He went blind and died. He had a massive head concussion. They didn't show his head bleeding. They didn't show him bleeding from the head.
No, they didn't.
They didn't show any, scenes where people are bleeding to death, or, they show a bunch of dead soldiers on the beach, but they didn't show blood and guts and gore. It was just drowning people, and people got shot, but you didn't see the blood and gore that you would see in a normal war movie.
I know, and that's the real problem, because again, look, if you're gonna make a war movie, to me, you're either going to really go for it or you're not. And
well, look at the part in the movie. There was a part in the movie where they had a boat. They found a boat. It was outside the perimeter, and they're shooting holes in the boat.
Yeah.
And now one of those soldiers, they shot about 50 holes in the boat.
Yeah.
The way those soldiers died is they died from drowning. No, a bullet should have killed them. One guy, he got shot in the hand. They didn't even show blood coming out of his hand that would have happened in the water. Any other war movie, they would have shown the blood. Yeah. You didn't have enough blood and guts and gore in this movie. And I'm not going to say that's why you go to a war movie. You want to see the blood, guts, and gore. You don't want to see it like a horror movie, but...
No, but if you think of like a war movie like We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, that had...
Well, even war movies like The Patriot, which was also
with Mel Gibson,
which was a Civil War, American Revolution.
Yeah, American Revolution.
Because as I said, I don't just watch war movies from World War II. I go all the way back to American Revolution, Civil War. But The Patriot, they had old-time guns. They showed people's heads getting blown off. They showed arms getting blown off, legs. They showed people getting killed. And that was 200 years ago. So this movie, it didn't have enough. It had the action, but it didn't have the blood you needed.
And I was surprised because this movie is directed by,
Nolan, you said.
Oh, yeah, Christopher Nolan, yeah.
I don't know the other movies he directed.
He's directed, whether it was Insomnia or Interstellar, Memento, the Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay, I've seen the Dark Knight, but I haven't seen the other movies.
I mean, he's done so much stuff.
Yeah, he's considered a phenomenal director.
And basically, this movie is distributed by Warner Brothers, and he's made a lot of money for Warner Brothers, and basically he's got carte blanche, basically, to do what he wants, because he's
made blockbuster hits.
So if you've got an idea, go ahead and do it.
Well, this movie, I hate to say, in the opening weekend was a blockbuster hit. It made a shitload of money.
It made a ton of money. Absolutely.
It made a ton of money, and opening weekend, I remember, came out on a Friday a few weeks ago, and I'm watching. I stayed up all night which I do commonly, Seth can tell you, but I was watching Fox News, and this is not Democrat liberal, and there was a movie critic who says, if you haven't seen a movie yet, go see Dunkirk. It's the best movie out there. He said it's going to be the best movie of the summer. It's one of the best World War II. He didn't say war. He didn't say war. But he said best World War II movies in a very long time. And that was hyped. It's hyped up, and it's just like that movie Avatar. Avatar was hyped up, and I wasn't a fan of Avatar. I watched maybe a half hour and said, I'm not into this. And yeah, I know it made $2 billion or $5 billion or whatever.
It's made a lot,
but I wasn't into it. This movie might have made a shitload of money, but I don't think it was phenomenal. I don't think it was a top 10 war movie. And as I said, the point is the evacuation. They go in, they have little boats, civilian boats. They do the call. They save 30,000 out of so many soldiers, and the boats come in, and that's fine, and they're based on a true story, but there wasn't enough dialogue in the movie. There wasn't enough, I mean, right from the beginning, there is action. There's planes shooting at each other, but every time you get excited, oh, this boat's going to save people, the boat gets, shot down, which is based on true story. A lot of those boats did get shot, but it was just, even the soldiers that played in the movie, I hate to say it. I mean, I'm not a soldier. My father was a soldier, whatever. A lot of them were very wimpy for soldiers. They didn't pick strong macho soldiers. A lot of these soldiers were very wimpy, in my opinion.
I mean, how so, I guess?
Well, I think the soldiers, which I guess would happen in wartime, but we don't know this. This is a part they had in the movie.
Yeah.
They said, we got to get weight off the boat. Now, the boat, there's a part in the movie, this boat has 50 holes in it. It doesn't care how much weight, the boat's sinking.
Yeah.
So what do? They turn on a guy, oh, he's French, let's turn on him. And they all say their own lives. I thought that was a very cowardice thing to do.
A lot of these soldiers are extreme cowards. Now, look, I understand that there's barely any food, barely any water, and they want to escape, and they're fearful of dying. I get all of that.
But the thing is, to throw a guy, let's throw him off the ship. We don't care what happens to him. Then there's another scene, a guy says, I don't want to fight. I don't want to go back to Dunkirk. And he winds up killing some young kid who wasn't even part of the war. He wasn't even a soldier. He knocks him down, kills him, gives him a massive head injury.
True, absolutely. And look, and they just forgive him.
They just forgive him. They're like, oh, well, it's the war, let it go. No, he killed somebody in cold-handed murder. This wasn't part of a military action.
Oh, man.
And then the other thing I don't like about the movie, which made sense, at the end of the movie, there's this blind guy. They say, oh, he didn't look us in the eye. No, the guy was blind.
Yeah, he was blind.
He was touching the face. He goes, thank you, you did a good job. And the guy's like, we lived. Sometimes that's enough. No, in war, that's not enough. Living's a good thing. You want to live, but, and I understand it was a battle. I understand based on a true story, we eventually did win the war.
Yeah.
But I agree with what some soldiers say. Living is, all we did is live. That's not
It's tough. It's tough to know where the line is between, hey, I've lived through this, happy that I did, or, hey, we won the war, happy that we did. I mean, a lot of it comes down to if you won, great. If you lost,
this was a new concept in type of movies, though, because most World War movies are action, saving a soldier or fighting a battle that we did win, or, it's showing the end of the war, or it's showing this movie was. Yeah, you had battle scenes, you had the fighter jets, and you had the U-boat, not the U-boats, but the regular boats.
Yeah, the regular boats.
But this was more an evacuation movie. This was evacuation. Yes. It wasn't fully a war movie. It was let's save people and get them out so they can fight another day, so we can put them back into battle. It wasn't really, this is not a typical war movie where you're going to say, oh, okay, there's going to be a winning battle or it's going to show the war. It showed one battle, and it wasn't a battle. It was showing them escaping.
Pretty much. I mean, I will say a couple more interesting points. One, I really did enjoy the music in it.
The music was epic. I do have to say the music was epic.
Yes.
I like war movies. I mean, I'm not going to give it a high review, believe it or not. I'll give it the last two movies.
Well, we're going to wait before we get to that, yes. But, no, I mean, like I said, the music was really good, and I will take points away for the editing of the movie.
Yeah, the editing was pretty shitty.
Man, I'll tell you, not only that, but here's something that really like got to me at times is that basically it goes sort of back and forth in time, so to speak. Whereas like you will see one scene and then you will maybe like 10 or 15 minutes later you'll go back to that scene again.
Yeah, it's not really going back to time. It's just going back to the same reoccurring scenes.
Yeah, but the problem is like you never know in the movie whether you're in that present time or whether you're in that different scene way back, like maybe that happened the previous day. It's kind of jumbled and a little bit confusing.
I find the movie very confusing.
And I think that's another problem with the movie is that it can never stay really coherent.
It was no cohesive movie, and it was no coherent movie. It just had no rhyme or rhythm.
It really didn't. And again, as I said, this movie is one of the shortest war movies.
Yeah, and I thought it dragged on. I said, even though it was short, I think an hour and 45 minutes it was, and I had to say, you know what? It felt like 2 hours and 45 minutes. It just kept dragging and dragging and dragging. And I was like, you know what? When they showed the civilian boats coming in, that should have been a half hour earlier.
Oh, sure. I mean, when, like, it might have been the halfway point in the movie, and I'm just sitting there in my seat watching the movie like, oh man, are we close to the end here? Because, man, this is dragging.
The thing. So much action is boring too. I mean, when I see an action movie and it's action, but there's no dialogue, there's no really great storyline, it's like, when will this shit end? Because you can only handle so much action. It's like a comedy. If you see a comedy and they tell joke after joke and joke, even some comedies have to have some serious points or some non-funny points, or the movie becomes stupid.
I mean, look, the thing about this is I think when all is said and done with Christopher Nolan's career, I think this is a movie that I don't think is going to be high on the list. I think this is going to be one of those movies where you're going to sit back and say, this is kind of an overrated flick.
It's very overrated.
And I can understand if people really enjoy the movie and get the enjoyment out of it. We didn't, but I understand if people do. But, you know, look, a lot of people are praising this movie, and some of it
That's what's pissing me off, the overrated hype. Best World War II movie in the last 20 years. Best this. Best. The acting was phenomenal. I was like, the acting was okay, but it wasn't phenomenal acting. The plot was not cohesive. I don't think it was the best of the best.
I mean, maybe if it wasn't so overhyped and everything, maybe we wouldn't be saying as much of the stuff as we did. But even then, I think we would still be honest and say what this is.
But the thing is, when you're going, like, when I was looking forward to this movie, and I looked forward last week and I couldn't go, but this week I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be an excellent movie. I'm so excited. It's going to be an amazing movie, war movie. I love war movies. I was so excited to see it. And, you know, I have to say, after getting out of the movies, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of disappointed. After all that hype, it's like, it didn't live up to the expectations.
It is unfortunate, and, you know, I will say that, look, go into it knowing that it is kind of slow, that it is kind of choppy, and that, look, you know, you're not going to get any kind of, like, main storyline here. You're following little tidbits of these few people, but you're not getting a story out of any of them. And so...
And even a lot of war movies, I hate to say it, they normally show people back home, relatives back home, something back home. I mean, there was just nothing. I mean, there wasn't even a love story. I'm not saying there should be a love story, but I mean, there was like... They didn't talk about brothers or sisters or family, or I mean, there
has to be something to connect you.
Well, that's the thing. If you're in a war movie, you want to say, well, do they have a brother back home, or a sister, or a mother, or a wife, or a girlfriend, or children? I mean, it was men. The whole movie, I mean, there was no woman actor. I mean, there was nothing.
Well, there was the nurses at times.
Yeah, but they weren't main roles.
Well,
but I'm like, there has to be some type of connection. I mean, you have to feel. And when I watch a war movie, whether it be Saving Private Ryan, Red October, Glory, Patriot, I want to have feelings. I want to walk away and be like, you know what? I felt emotion. This movie, there was no emotion. There was nothing. I didn't feel anything for this movie.
I mean, to me, it isn't. Again, we may be the odd men out here, and if we are, then so be it. I would rather be honest and be the odd man out instead of being the person that like is just gonna praise it because everybody praises it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. I
I was
want to
like
be
that
on
with
it.
Avatar. I was like that. Everybody loved Avatar. Oh, it made $4 billion. You got to see it. My mom bought it. She didn't even see it in the movie theaters. You know what? I saw 20 minutes of Avatar. I hated the movie. I said, you know what? I'm not going to see it. This is this type of movie. This is a movie I will not buy.
No.
I'll wait until it comes on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime. My dad he didn't want to go see it in the movies because he said, I'm into a real war movie. This for him wasn't a real, my dad saw the scenes, this is not a real war movie. It's an evacuation type of movie. He said, when it's hyped up that much, he said, I'm not seeing it. He said, I'll wait until it comes to the video store and I'll rent it at the video store.
And he's right. So,
You know?
what is your grade rating then for Dunkirk?
I would have to, I don't want to give it a bad rating, but I'd have to be all honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a C minus. I'd say C plus because the music was good. I'd have to say, the story wasn't there. It wasn't cohesive theory. I'd have to say a C plus. I'd have to say it's a type of movie. I would see it again. I'm not going to say I would say B minus, C
Okay.
plus. In
Sure.
between a B minus, C plus.
Sure.
I would see it again. I would see with my family. I would see this with somebody who, you know, knows history. A history buff would love this. My brother-in-law is a history teacher, teaches 7th grade social studies. This is right up his alley.
Okay.
I would see this movie with him.
Sure. For me, look, I mean, as we've said, the editing is choppy. There is no story to this whatsoever, except for the true life story of Dunkirk itself. But you don't get invested in any of the characters. The film feels like it drags. And look, I think that at this point, I think we need to sort of say to somebody like Christopher Nolan, look, you've made all these great movies and you have carte blanche to do whatever you want, but sometimes maybe you need to be reined in a little bit and maybe you need to be told to kind of put a little bit more interesting things in there to kind of keep the story alive and going, and this didn't do it. So for me, I'm going to give it a C minus. I'm going to give it a C minus, and, you know, look, it's definitely not a buy, it's possibly a rent, but go in, as we said, with checked expectations and know what you're getting into. And by all means, let me just say this, as far as a World War II movie, this doesn't even scratch the top 10 for me. This does not even close.
This doesn't even scratch the top 20 for me.
Yeah, not even close. So that is our review for Dunkirk. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And we will be back next time for another movie review. See you later, guys. Bye.